Good morning, Station Camp. I just learned this morning, I'm always learning something about Scott, that, I knew we were from the same hometown and everything, but I didn't know we went to the same elementary school, because I'm probably 10 years older than Scott. But what I didn't know till this morning was that Scott was a tumbler. That was the word we used, is more masculine than saying gymnast, right? Did you all know that Scott was a tumbler, gymnast? Well, apparently he was, and I was too. Our little elementary school had a tumbling team, and our principal was it's hard to imagine Mr. Stevens had ever, because he was so round and all that, but he taught us how to do flips and back flips, and he had equipment and trampoline before any of that stuff was cool, and so we share that in common. We also share our passion for Hippo Valley Christian Mission, and Hippo Valley Christian Mission is one of the great missions in the history, really, of the Christian churches and Church of Christ, the Restoration Movement. And it began in 1956. It was founded by John Pemberton and his wife Marge, and also Dr. Dennis Pruitt and his wife Lucy. John Pemberton was a POW, prisoner of war, during World War II, captured at the Battle of the Bulge. And in that prison camp, he made a promise to God. He said, "God, if you get me home, I will serve you the rest of my life." And 6 months later, the war was over, and John came home, and he honored that promise that he made to God. And so he married his high school sweetheart, Marge, and they moved from up in Gary, Indiana, all the way down to Grayson, Kentucky, to attend Kentucky Christian College to prepare for the ministry. Didn't know where he'd go, didn't know what he was going to do, he just knew he made that promise to God. And while he was a student at KCC, under the GI Bill, he met another World War II veteran who'd made a similar promise. He wasn't a POW, but he made a similar promise during the war, and he and his wife came to KCC to prepare for the ministry. His name was Dennis Pruitt. And so these two guys, young guys, Dennis and John, became buddies, and they, through a series of divine events, that's all we can look back and clearly see the hand of God in this, but they ended up taking a bus trip up to Toronto, Canada to attend the World Mission Fair. While they were there at the World Mission Fair, they met Garfield Todd, who was Prime Minister of Southern Rhodesia in Africa. Today, Southern Rhodesia is called Zimbabwe, Africa. And Garfield Todd was Prime Minister of Southern Rhodesia, so he's like the president of Rhodesia, but he was also a Church of Christ missionary from New Zealand. And he had gone there to recruit somebody to come to Rhodesia and take up mission work there. And so these three men met, a very historic meeting, looking back. John Pemberton, Dennis Pruitt, and Garfield Todd. And the rest is history. So in '56, the Pembertons went to Rhodesia with their young children. Took them 31 days to get there. Bus, train, plane, all that sort of, no planes, just all those other things. The Pruitts came 2 years later after Denny graduated from KCC. He went to medical school and he was finishing up his medical training. So the mission began with these two families in 1956 and 58 with the simple philosophy to reach the whole person for Christ, the body, the mind, the soul. The body through health care. Dr. Pruitt set up a health clinic at Mashoko, which was a rural place out in southern Rhodesia. The Pembertons built a school there at Mashoko to teach the children reading and writing and about Jesus. And there in the school they started the church for the soul, the medical for the body, schools for the mind, and the gospel and the church for the eternal soul. And that simple philosophy has driven this mission now for 66 years. And today, Hippo Valley Christian Mission has 28 mission schools. Started with one, today we have 28. We've got around 20,000 children currently attending our mission schools. And if you do the math, over the past 66 years, the number is something over 500,000 kids have come through these mission schools. There's 500,000 kids who've not only learned about reading and writing and arithmetic, but they've learned about Jesus too. Our schools are our harvest field. To harvest, to evangelize, get them young, teach them young. That little medical clinic that Dr. Pruitt built is a full hospital. We have 2 additional health clinics. We have an orphan ministry where we've raised well over 100 kids from small children into adulthood. We currently still have, I think, 56, something like 58 kids in our orphan ministry. We have a Living Proof program. Some of you, I think, are Living Proof sponsors, right? Any of you Living Proof sponsors? Raise your hand. Amen. All right. All right. We have brochures up here. If you want to be a Living Proof sponsor, this is a wonderful program. We currently have about 1,500 kids in this program. So these are kids from within our mission schools who we've identified as kids with, great attitude and all of that. But these kids come from some of the poor. These are the poorest of the poor. Zimbabwe is one of the 2 or 3 poorest nations on earth, all right? And so these kids live in rural places, go to our rural mission schools, but we pair them up with it's $20 a month, it's all costs, $20 a month. You can do it credit, debit, deduction automatically every month, or write a check, anything you want to do. It's $20 a month to sponsor one of the kids. I think we currently have like 150 kids we need to find sponsors for. It's $20 a month. You can email them, buy them a Christmas gift every year of a new school uniform. The kids get one of these Living Proof shirts. They get a Bible. They get to participate in these club meetings. So 15 of the $20 is used to run this program. We've got 3 full-time workers, we've got vehicles, we've got curriculum, all these other things. 5 of that $20 is put in the Living Proof Scholarship Fund so that when the child reaches high school age, we've got the money to put them in high school. There's I don't know if it's 60% dropout rate or something in Zimbabwe because high school is expensive. And so I think we have almost 500 kids now in high school because of this program. These are kids who probably wouldn't have been in high school if it weren't for this. So if you want to become a Living Proof sponsor, see my wife after church, and you can fill out one of these. And if you do it today, and only today, we can't do this forever, folks. But if you sign up today, you'll get one of these T-shirts as well, which are nice to have. Right now, there are 2 big things happening with the mission. 2 huge things, and there are a whole bunch of little things. But these 2 big things have been obviously dominating our time and our attention and our energies and our efforts. And one of these things is the Living Proof High School. And if you read our newsletters, and there's some newsletters and some literature over there, you can learn more about it. Scott, as you know, Station Camp has made a big contribution toward the Living Proof High School. I think a $25,000 contribution this past year. This high school, we own this property, 150 acres, and most of our property, most of our schools are in rural places. Scott, Anthony, you all have been out there, right? It's 4 hours sometimes to get out to one of these rural schools. But we were able to get this property on a main highway. It's called the Harare Highway, and it's right in the middle of the country, right between the capital city of Harare is up here, Chiredzi, where our mission is based, is down here. It's about 6 hours drive. And right in the middle is an area called Gutu, where we were able to obtain 150 acres right on the highway. So this is a big deal. And we've been planning and scheming and raising funds to build a school out there. because there's no school. The kids who do go to school in Gutu walk 6 or 7 miles one way to get to school. And, but there's lots of people that live in this area. So our plan was to build a primary school. It would be an elementary school. But about 1.5 years ago, when I was out there, we were talking with our new education manager, Mr. Samuel Mwewe. And he said, you know, the real need right now is high schools. He said, there's such a waiting list for high schools. And you know, the whole education system in Africa is different than here. You know, here in the States, every community has a high school, right? I mean, is this, what is this? Station Camp's not a town, right? So it's urban, right? So there's a high school, I imagine, in urban, right? And the kids, if they can't walk there, they bus there, right? Or the parents drop them off, that kind of thing. Every community has a high school. That's not the case in Africa. There's very few high schools. There's really not even a primary school in every community, though we're trying to do that. But high schools are harder to come by. There's no money for buses, there's no paved roads, you know, that kind of thing. And so if a child wants to go to high school and they live out in a rural place, how are they going to get there? You know, so they've got to move. So the parents, hopefully, they've got some relative that lives near a high school, and the kid can go live with the relative, you know, when they're 13 years old. If not, they've got to find a family that will take their child in for a monthly rate, maybe $10 a month or something they require. And often these kids, particularly the girls, can even be taken advantage of in these situations, sadly, living in these border houses. The ultimate, of course, is a boarding school. Boarding schools are where the kids whose parents have jobs and reasonable means go. The rich go to boarding schools, and you know, there's really not a middle class in Zimbabwe. There's 4 or 5% that have, and then the rest are very poor. Boarding school is for the rich, or at least those who can work it out. Boarding school probably costs anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 a term. And that's a lot of money. That'd be a lot of money for us, but imagine for this culture, this poor culture. So most of these poor kids that go, you know, that are part of our mission would never dream of being able to go to a boarding school. And so, long story short, we decided we're going to build a boarding school, and we're going to call it Living Proof High School. And we're going to take some of these poor kids who never would have had a chance not only to go to high school, but to be able to go to a boarding school, a premier boarding school, and we're going to do that. And so we began to rethink this vision, and Living Proof High School vision was born. And so what we have here was our original plan. And so this is the road. This is the Harare Road. This is 150 acres. And you come in here. Oh, by the way, we're calling this whole 150 acres Pemberton Station in honor of John Pemberton and March. So this is Pemberton Station, Living Proof High School at Pemberton Station in Gutu. Can you remember all that? Because there'll be a test afterwards. In Zimbabwe, formerly Rhodesia. All right, so in Zimbabwe, Africa, right in the center of the country, there's a region called Gutu. And in that region of Gutu, we have 150 acres on the main highway, which we're calling Pemberton Station. And at Pemberton Station, we are building the Living Proof High School. Now this is our big plan. There's going to be a chapel one day. There's going to be not one, but 2 soccer fields, a track, boys' dorms, girls' dorms, housing for faculty and staff, apartment living for faculty and staff. And down here in this corner, that is where we are targeting to put the primary school. So once we get the high school built, we are going to build a primary school. And this won't be a boarding school. These will be for the area kids who can walk in and be part of this primary school. And Scott, I don't know if you announced it or not, maybe you did, but we're going to be calling that primary school Togarepi Primary School. in honor of our friend Zebedee Togarepi. And I believe the very first donation given to the Togarepi Primary School came from Station Camp. So I think there's $5,000 that has been given to us by Station Camp. And our hope, Scott, is once we get this up and running, which the plan is January 2023, and it's coming up real fast. So about a year from now, hopefully we'll be building that primary school. So you see, it's not just a matter of building class building. We've got the classroom built. It's 4 big blocks. I would say each classroom is about the size of this room, maybe a little smaller. And there's 4 of them. So we built that. We had that built a year and a half ago. But once we decided to go boarding school, then everything changed. Now we've got to have a plumbing system, and we've got to have an electrical system, and we've got to have dormitories, and we've got to have a dining hall, and a kitchen, and housing for teachers and faculty and staff, and all those things. And so we began, decide what's this going to cost, we projected somewhere around $500,000 this last March when I was over there, and we began looking at some of the construction that was being done by less than top tier contractors, and we realized how they did business, which is they tell you it's this much, and then they get halfway done and they say, oh, we're going to need this much in order to finish it. We decided to scrap that. We went up to Bulawayo, the city of Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. We met with some first-rate contractors, Mako builders. These are guys that build hotels. These are reputable builders, the guys that build the N1 hotels for Mr. Digby Nesbitt. And sure enough, it wasn't going to cost $500,000. It was going to cost about $900,000. Now that's for the housing. That's for 1 dormitory, housing for teachers and staff, the apartments, the life center or the dining hall, kitchen, all the things I mentioned. We're looking at about $900,000. So when I came back in April of this last year, I realized we had to raise another $400,000 in order to open this school in January of 2023. And so I made a phone call to a gentleman in Iowa who's a big supporter of our mission, and he had committed $150,000 to build the dormitory because that's what we thought it was going to cost. And so with fear and trembling, I called Bud Johnson and I said, Bud, I know you gave us $150,000 to build that dormitory. I know that was a big sacrifice. Bud's a businessman. He does well, but he isn't, he's not that Musk guy or something. Ian Musk. He's not that guy. But he's a good Christian man and wants to invest in God's kingdom. And so I said, Bud, we've learned that some of these contractors we're dealing with, they give us one price and it's another. Their work we're seeing is questionable. We decided we needed to do this right. We need to do it commercial grade. We want this thing to last. And he said, I agree with that. He goes, that's what you've got to do. And I said, well, I know we told you it's going to be $150,000. It's going to be more like $280,000. And he was quiet for a moment. And he said, okay. He said, I appreciate you telling me that. He said, let me talk to my wife and we'll see what we can do. So the next day he called me back and he said, we're going to send you, in July, we're going to send you another $100,000. And he said, and then between now, this was May, he said between now and the end of July, he said anything you raise up to $150,000, we will in addition match that. So in other words, he's giving us $100,000 plus up to $150,000. If we can raise another $150,000, if I can raise another $150,000, he'll match that. And I believe that's what Station Camp gave $25,000 to. We are currently at about $86,000 of the $150,000 that we need to raise by the end of this month. We've got some other prospects I'm working on, and we're going to get there. We're going to get there. I have really no doubt that we're going to get that other 65,000. And we're going to be able to do this thing. We've already sent $500,000 over there. Mako Builders is working on it. All the foundations are laid. The walls are up on all these buildings. Electrical lines are in and water lines are in. It's pretty amazing how quickly they're working. And they say by the end of August they'll be done. And we'll be able to open school in January. That's when their school year begins, by the way, is January. Ours starts in August, theirs starts in January. So this is an exciting deal. Our plan is we're going to start with 135 students. All right, Form 1, that'd be like 8th grade. Their high school starts a little bit before ours. So we're going to start with just one class of 8th graders, 135 of them. 50 of those kids will be on scholarship as living proof kids. These are our kids from our program who are now 7th graders about to be 8th graders. And they're going to get to come. They're going to be chosen based on academics, primarily character, that kind of thing. But 50 kids will be recipients of the Living Proof Scholarship and will be able to come to a premier boarding school. 50 kids will be accepted from around the country. There's a waiting list. There's a waiting list of parents who want to get their kids in this new high school. And they'll be paying tuition. And the payment of that tuition, in theory, will sustain the school and develop the school. And then 35 of those kids will be day boarders. That's kids, high school age kids who live in the region who will be able to walk to school and then go home at the end of the day. So that's the plan. Then next year, we'll add another 135 students, same way, and we'll just keep, so we'll build another 4-block classroom, and each year we'll add 135 students. Eventually there could be 1,200 students at the Living Proof High School. It's a boarding school, so you've got to have all the other things. We got farming area up here, cattle and goats, and teaching them farming techniques, farming God's way. A whole lot of big exciting things we're going to do with Living Proof High School. Now that's the one big thing we've got going on. The second big thing is Central Africa Christian College. And I won't spend near as much time telling you about that. But Central Africa Christian College is an exciting vision. For some time now, we've been partners with Zimbabwe Christian College. In fact, John Pemberton and Dennis Pruitt started Zimbabwe Christian College. It was originally Mashoko Christian College, and then it was Central Africa Bible College, and then it was Rhodesian Christian College, and then Zimbabwe Christian College. But we don't run the college. We work with the college. I teach at the college. Sidney Mawodza, who's the principal of the college, he's part of us. But we don't run the college. There's a board over there that runs the college. And so we wanted to partner with the board to help develop the college, and it just wasn't working out. There was some resistance. We wanted it to become a 4-year degree program, and they wanted to keep it a 3-year diploma program. And just, we weren't fighting about it, but we weren't on the same page. And so we decided that what we would do is build Central Africa Christian College on the campus of Pemberton Station. So this little area down here, and I say little, that'd been like 20 acres, was going to be Central Africa Christian College. And we had our plan together and our fundraising strategy together. They were going to share the same dining hall. They were going to share the same chapel as the high school, share the same sports complex, all that. And we were moving forward with it. And hoping to open also in 2023, if not 2024. And this last March, when I was over in Zimbabwe, the board of Zimbabwe Christian College came to us and they said, all right, we now see that you're serious about starting this other college. We don't think it would be good for us to have 2 colleges. We think your college being a 4-year degree, all the students would want to go there and none of them would want to go to our school. And we said, so they said, why don't we talk about working together? And we said we can't. It's too late. We tried that, and we've already gotten the plan, and we've already announced to the churches that we're doing this. And they said, well, long story short, they essentially gave us the keys to Zimbabwe Christian College. And so there's now a new board. I'm on the board. Two of our other guys are on the board. There's still a board, but it's a new board. We've changed the name. The name is now Central Africa Christian College. We've changed the vision, a 4-year degree program, degrees in Bible ministry, and also degrees in teacher education and Bible. So Bible and ministry, Bible and teacher education. We need teachers. We desperately need Christian Bible-trained teachers for our schools. So we're offering those 2 degrees. That's all we plan to offer. We don't plan to go into other, business and some of those other things. It's going to be a preacher-teacher training institution. And so we've scrapped this idea. So let's just put my hand over that. We've scrapped that idea, and we're going to be building Central Africa Christian College. We are building Central Africa Christian College on the campus and on the foundation of Zimbabwe Christian College in Harare, the capital city. So those are the 2 really exciting things. I've got a brochure over here that talks about Central Africa Christian College, and also I brought some of the leftover letters. These are letters that we wrote to all the churches that support Zimbabwe Christian College, announcing this exciting opportunity, this exciting new name, new vision, new board, new everything. So things are happening with the mission. Very, very exciting times, and we need your prayers. We appreciate the financial support. This church is one of our best supporting churches. Scott, I always say this, it's just amazing. Here's this little church out in the middle of nowhere. You gotta want to find this place. That sign, boy, that's an amazing sign. As you're coming, what's the road? You're coming in from McDonald's. Yeah, it's about this big, and it's black, and I'm not being critical, but I have cataracts, you see, and so you gotta want to find this place, right? But yet there's life here, there's kids running around, lives are being changed here, and you are making such a significant impact on Zimbabwe. I wish I could put it into words, the impact that you're having on our work in Zimbabwe, because this isn't the only big significant gift this church has given. And this church has supported this mission since way back in the days of John Pemberton. And so, you say, well, this is a small church out in the middle of nowhere, but this church is doing big things. Christianity began in Jerusalem. It began in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. Jerusalem was the epicenter of Christianity. And then it moved. Historically, you look at Christianity, it moved from Jerusalem to Antioch. Antioch became the epicenter of Christianity. Later, the center of Christianity, believe it or not, was Northern Africa. Ethiopia and places like that where Augustine and St. Augustine and all these great scholars were. That was the epicenter of Christianity. Now it's all Muslim. All those countries are. Then Christianity moved to Europe. Europe became the center of Christianity. The great preachers, the great churches, the great architecture, all that in Europe. And then Christianity, the center of Christianity moved to the United States. And for most of our lifetime, most of us in this room, in our lifetime, the United States has been the center of Christianity. Go to Europe and they still have the big church buildings, but no one believes. You're lucky to find anyone who even believes in God in Europe. They don't. They like the buildings, like to look at them, but they're not. There's no evangelism there. There's no passion there. There's no fire there for the Lord's work. The center of Christianity has been the United States for at least the last 100 years. As of just a few years ago, 94% of all funding for world evangelism came from the United States. Think about that. 94% of the funding for missionaries around the world came from the United States. There's almost 8 billion people living on planet Earth. 330 million live in the United States. That means we're 5%. We're 5% of the Earth's population, but 94% of the funding for world evangelism comes from this country, not from the government, not from the government, but from places like this. Churches like this, people like you. I'm of the opinion that's why God keeps blessing this country, because there is a faithful remnant of people. Doesn't have to be a majority, you know. Remember, God's bickering with Abraham about Sodom and Gomorrah. If I could find maybe 10 people, Lord, would you spare it? Yeah, I'll spare it. I'm getting sidetracked, but my point is, the epicenter's here. But most of us have seen, we've observed on our watch, that the United States is becoming less and less of a Christian nation. There's still faithful Christians here. There's still a good remnant of faithful Christians here. I'm not all doom and gloom here. But is it naive to think that this will always be the epicenter of Christianity, the United States? I believe, and it's just my theory, it's just an opinion, but I believe that Africa could become the next epicenter of Christianity should the Lord tarry. There's 1.3 billion people living on the continent of Africa. And it is ripe for harvest. I mean, we built that school building out there 2 years ago. And a year ago, July, we sent a young guy out there to watch the goats, Japhet. He's trained at Zimbabwe Christian College, and we said, Japhet, we want you to go out there, we want you to live, we want you to watch the goats. We want you to start a church there in the school building that's just sitting there. And when the school starts, you'll be the chaplain and you'll be the preacher of this church. So he started a church a year ago this month. They run almost 100 people now, Scott, in that church. And you know what the name of the church is? They call it Living Proof Christian Church. Over 100 people. They baptized, I think, 47 people at this church that we started here. The fields are white in the harvest. You know, there's some ground where you just throw a seed on it and it grows, right? And there's some ground where you can, like my backyard, where you can cultivate it and you can put Miracle Grow and you still hardly get anything out of it. It's all in the soil. The soil in Africa is fertile for the gospel. I believe Africa is going to be the next epicenter of Christianity. Certainly sub-Saharan Africa, where our mission is based. Central Africa Christian College, our vision statement is to train the hundreds who will reach the thousands. So we are taking our eyes off of just Zimbabwe, and our vision is to train preachers in Mozambique, in Malawi, in Botswana, in Zambia, in South Africa, all those countries around Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is one of the most evangelized countries in Africa. So it's time Zimbabwe stopped looking at themselves as a mission field and started looking at themselves as the senders of missions and preachers. And so that's what Central Africa Christian College is all about. That's what our mission is focused on. Not just maintaining what we've done, but where do we go from here? Moving from a mission of dependency to sustainability and toward generosity to the whole region. I'm convinced that Africa is at least certainly sub-Saharan. You get up in northern Africa, it's a much harder. That's where you've got a strong Islamic presence and persecution of Christians, but central to sub-Saharan Africa is just wide open for the spreading of the gospel. And we are going to strike while the iron's hot. That's what we're doing. It's 11:56. Let me leave you with this thought. You know, when John Pemberton was just a young guy, 19, 20, 21 years old, whatever he was, he's in that prison camp, believing he would die, certain he was going to die, wasting away, shivering. He cried out to the God of his cradle faith, and he said, God, get me home, and I'll serve you the rest of my life. And 6 months later, the war was over, and John went home. And I would say he never looked at life the same again. Never looked at life the same again after that experience. I'm sure he had plans. I'm sure he had dreams. I'm sure he had aspirations for his life. But that all changed. That all changed when he made that promise to God. Jesus went up to Peter and Andrew and James and John on the shores of the Sea of Galilee in Mark chapter 1, beginning with verse 14. And he called them to him and he said, you're fishermen. I want you to put away your nets and come follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. And Peter and Andrew left their nets and they went and followed Jesus. And then he went to James and John. And the Bible says they left the boats, they left their father Zebedee, and they followed Jesus. Fishermen, just fishermen. I mean, these were, fishermen, rough. These weren't guys that just like to go out and, these are guys, they were commercial fishermen. Hard living, hard talking, up all night, 48 hours fishing. These were rough guys, and they left it all behind to follow Jesus. Now, we're not all called to go to Africa. We're not all called to leave our homes and our occupations and our families. But every single one of us, make no mistake about it, every single one of us, if you call yourself a Christian, every one of us has been called to look at life differently.
Amen.
You're fishing for a fish? That's wonderful. I'm going to make you fishers of men. We're going to change your whole perspective. Romans chapter 1 says, I urge you, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to the Lord. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We're all called to a mission mindset that looks at life differently. It's not just about what job can I get and how much can I make and what do I want? It's God, what do you want? Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? Where would you have me invest my efforts, my energies, my resources? That's a mission mindset. So my challenge to you today is to continue to be, and all the more as we see the day approaching, be a mission-minded church and a mission-minded people. Amen? Amen. Okay.